It's a cheerful underwater cartoon until you notice flames roaring, memories glitching, and a pet that watches too closely. Something in Bikini Bottom feels staged, and the rules no longer hold. Bikini Bottom is quiet tonight. The Krusty Krab sign hums. Inside, a grill hisses with heat. Oil pops, smoke curls, buns toast, perfect. But we're underwater. Fire shouldn't live here, not like this. Real flames need oxygen, not seawater pressing from every side like a cold fist. The show waves at volcanic vents as an answer. Natural chimneys that leak superheated gases up through the seafloor. Convenient, too convenient. If vents dot the town so densely that every kitchen, campfire, and explosion finds a friendly pocket of heat, Bikini Bottom should be a scalding nightmare, not a cozy neighborhood. Look closer. Some fires roar in places with no rock bed, no vent spires, no shimmer of thermal water, just heat on command, like a stage light switched on from above. That odd consistency points to an unsettling fix. Maybe the fire isn't fire. Maybe it's an energy field projected into specific spaces, tuned to behave like flame, sound, light, heat, sizzle, without the messy chemistry that water would crush. And if that power can be projected anywhere on cue, who controls the switch? More importantly, what else can they turn on? Or off? Pearl laughs. Mr. Krabs clutches his wallet because old habits die harder than barnacles. But there's a silence that slips in when they're alone, the kind that belongs to someone missing from the frame. We never see a photo of Mrs. Krabs on the wall, never hear her name in a happy memory, never catch an anniversary, a story, a song. The show plays it as a cartoon quirk. Don't overthink it. But the absence begins to glow like a neon sign. One theory fits too cleanly to ignore. Mr. Krabs is a widower. It reframes everything. His obsession with money isn't greed alone, it's control, containing chaos after losing what he couldn't protect. His protectiveness of Pearl isn't just fatherly, it's a white-knuckle grip against a tide that's already taken once. Maybe the sea claimed Mrs. Krabs. Maybe something else did. Something connected to the fire that isn't fire and the power that isn't nature. And if there's a hand big enough to write fire into the ocean, it's big enough to erase a person. And the proof she ever existed. Sandy's tree dome is comfort, a slice of Texas sun tucked under a glass sky. But the details don't sit right when you hold still and listen. Air goes stale without exchange. Filters clog. Pressure outside could crush a flawed seal in a heartbeat. Yet years pass. Her biome hums on like a perfect terrarium, never squeaking, never lagging, never breaking. Someone could argue she's that good. Engineering, tinkering, genius solutions. But if the dome is truly self-contained, where do the depletion curves go? Why does no one mention scheduled air cycles, replacement membranes, or supply runs? The simplest explanation isn't simple at all. The dome is serviced silently by a provider Sandy never names. Air composition quietly reset, structural stress corrected, pressure equalized at 1 atmosphere like a switch flicked at dawn. Payment? Maybe data, maybe inventions, maybe obedience. Sandy's bravery reads differently if she's also beholden. If she's building for the same invisible caretaker that keeps underwater fires alive and memories quiet. Loyalty born from survival still looks like loyalty. Cartoons break continuity all the time. But in Bikini Bottom, the reset isn't lazy, it's precise. SpongeBob earns a boating license, then doesn't. The Krusty Krab closes forever, then opens like the sign never changed. Characters fall, vanish, return, without a wink, without a bruise, without the narrative bridge you'd expect. It feels less like an oversight and more like a maintenance cycle. Imagine a loop that snaps back to a default state whenever variables stray too far. Each snap cleans the surface but leaves residue, faint memories stuck to the edges of consciousness. That would explain those moments when the laughter trails into a hush, when a character blinks as if seeing a corridor of events that didn't happen anymore. Deja vu is grief with the serial numbers filed off. Who gets to pull the lever that resets the world? The same entity that writes fire into water and air into a dome. The same entity that can remove a family member from history, then nudge everyone to keep smiling on cue. Gary meows. Harmless. Domestic. But watch the rhythm. He arrives in rooms before problems bloom. He stares at doors just before someone knocks. On rare occasions, he speaks with a calm intelligence that slips back behind a meow the second you notice. If the timeline resets for everyone, who keeps the ledger of what used to be? Maybe the answer crawls on a silver trail. Think of Gary as a constant that persists across loops, a creature with a neurological quirk or design that resists the wipe. In one loop, he sees SpongeBob fail. In another, he sees him pass. In a third, he sees the fire stutter, the dome sigh, the calendar click. He sees, he remembers, he adjusts. That makes him less a pet and more a sentinel, placed beside SpongeBob not to love him though he does, but to shepherd him between versions of the same day. Is he working for the caretaker, against it? Or is he like a black box recorder, neutral, silent, storing every scream the world is forced to forget? Every town keeps a legend, but Bikini Bottom keeps a recipe. The Krabby Patty secret formula is guarded like it could end the world, which in this town might not be exaggeration. There's the fun theory. A spice blend, a cooking trick, a perfect ratio. But supply chains tell the truth better than myths. The Krusty Krab never runs out. Not of patties, not of sizzle, not of repeatable perfection. Even when demand spikes, even when delivery lines snarl, patties keep flipping without a hiccup. What can produce identical results forever in a world that resets? Two answers: cloning or control. Either Mr. Krabs has access to a protein source that can be replicated without limit, printed, cultured, grown, or the caretaker provides ingredients in exchange for stability elsewhere. Plankton's obsession reads differently if he isn't just a jealous rival. Maybe he wants the truth revealed because the truth fractures control. If the patties rely on the same system that keeps the fire lit and the dome full, then stealing the formula isn't theft, it's sabotage. The darker reading is the simplest. The formula isn't food science, it's protocol. Obey the protocol and the town keeps eating. Keep eating and the town keeps forgetting. Let's assume good faith. Volcanic vents exist. Domes can be engineered, restaurants can secure supply. But what happens when the natural explanation appears exactly where the story needs it every time? Vents under every grill, air with the perfect oxygen ratio forever, food that flows unbroken, resets that never misalign. Coincidence eventually becomes choreography. Picture a stage built over a real ocean trench. The trench provides cover, a believable setting where impossible things can hide behind science. Now add a control booth. From there, you can tune the heat, refill the air, restock the pantry, rewind the plot. You can lift a mother out of a timeline so cleanly, her absence barely ripples the surface. You can place a guardian snail, a whistleblowing microvillain, and a heroic inventor in specific spots, and watch the experiment run. If that's the design, then Bikini Bottom isn't a town. It's an observation deck. The residents are subjects, and the laughter track is the hum of machines doing their job. For all its slapstick, the show has pauses that feel too human. Mrs. Puff's panic isn't funny when her hands won't stop shaking. Squidward's cynicism isn't a gag when the silence after his line lingers a beat too long. SpongeBob's optimism sometimes falters, not like a dropped punchline, but like a small boy whose mask slips when no one is looking. Those moments echo with more than comedy. They echo with memory, like the characters almost recall what gets erased. Tie that to the loop theory and the caretaker's hand. If each reset leaves emotional residue, then the town's mood swings are trauma speaking without vocabulary. A joke lands differently when you've told it 1,000 times to keep from screaming. That also explains why the darkest hints creep in the edges. Background extras frozen a frame too long. Sound quieting, as if the room is holding its breath. Eyes tracking the camera like it's a thing with a pulse. Contracts aren't always written. Sometimes they're lived. Sandy's perfect air and Krabs' perfect supply form two halves of the same bargain. One gets life support, the other gets resource support. Both get silence. If the caretaker maintains the dome, the grill, the stock, the resets, then it also dictates terms. Fail to comply, and the projection dims, the pressure rises, the fridge runs empty. Now Mr. Krabs' money mania sharpens. Wealth is leverage. It is the only thing he thinks the caretaker understands. Numbers, counts, ledgers. Pay your dues, keep your routine, and the lights stay on. Sandy's science may in part be maintenance code, rituals that keep the machinery happy. And if Gary is the recorder and Plankton the agitator, then SpongeBob is the keystone. Keep him smiling and the loop remains stable for everyone watching. Suddenly, the town's obsession with normal isn't simple optimism, it's survival. Individually, the mysteries are quirky. Underwater fire, a missing mother, a perfect dome, a slippery timeline, a too smart pet, a guarded recipe. Together they read like a maintenance manual. Heat source, external, atmosphere, maintained, food, provided, memory, reset, sentinel, placed, protocol, enforced. The caretaker isn't a villain with a mustache, it's a system. Cold, efficient, built to run a cheerful simulation without leaks. And that's the dread. If the system works best when the town stays silly, then any attempt to tell the truth becomes a threat. That's why evidence vanishes. That's why moments of clarity cut to commercial. That's why the laughter always comes back in time to tuck the fear into bed. You were promised plot holes solved, and this is the cleanest solution. There are no holes if the world is a project. There are only parameters and consequences for failing them. Next time you watch, do nothing for one scene but listen. Hear the way the room goes quiet before a reset. Track Gary's gaze when everyone else is laughing. Watch Sandy's dome lights flick in rhythms that match no natural cycle. Notice how Mr. Krabs counts even when he's alone, like he's paying a bill you can't see. Maybe this is still a harmless cartoon. Maybe the vents are vents, the dome's just brilliant engineering, and the secret formula is salt, love, and timing. But if your stomach drops in those silent beats between jokes, trust that feeling. The stage is bigger than the town, and somewhere, past the glass of the screen, someone is still at the controls. Which mystery feels most real to you? The fire, the dome, the formula, or the loop? Tell me below. And if you want more unsettling dives like this one, subscribe, because the next episode you thought you knew might not be the one you remember.